Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm not quite sure the connection that my NDP friend is trying to make to SDTC and the fraud that was going on there, other than to maybe suggest that this, the building fund that the Liberals are touting that haven't seen anything built yet may have some concerns with its funding as well. And maybe is there not corruption there? I don't know. But I want to talk about why we're here in this privilege motion, and that is from what the Auditor General is able to find, and only on what she was able to do the study on, did she find $400 million. My concern is there millions or hundreds of millions of more money from this green slush fund over the course of 6 years that this continued on since the Liberals changed the leadership of this group, the board, that there is millions and millions more misappropriated funds that we don't even know about yet. That's what we need to focus on as Canadians. It's taxpayer money, not the government's.
And comments, the member for Yorkton Millville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciated what the member had to say about this issue, and I actually question the motivation on the other side. I think I'm a little more harsh on this than perhaps he is, mostly because of what I hear from my constituents. I want to mention that very early on in this government's existence, they brought forward a bill to, it was around an environmental framework. So just brought it to the House to be debated, first day of debate. And it was very clear that they were bringing in things that weren't normal, such as a freshly sweeping power to the minister and accountability to an advisory board rather than to this House. So I questioned the member from West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country about what this board would look like, all kinds of questions around it. What would their mandate be? How long would they be there? All kinds of questions. Well, the member couldn't wait to stand up and say that the board had already been chosen. And that was at the beginning of this government's mandate. And now we have these things happening. So what in this circumstance would tell you that they value taxpayers' money or the rights and responsibilities of this place?
Member for Medicine Hat, Cardston, Warner.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my friend for the question. I think it's quite clear over 9 years of this government that they have absolute, complete contempt for the taxpayers in this country. And we can go through dozens of examples of where they've taken advantage of. They have completely, wasted hard-earned taxpayer money, and the SDTC is an example of that. So they have a board already pre-selected early on that full of Liberal insiders. Surprise, surprise. That should, if that doesn't raise alarm bells to anybody, then somebody's asleep over there. And obviously they have been, as indicated by, there's 186 conflicts of interest, and the minister didn't even recognize them, to their own board members and their own companies who didn't belong to any sustainable fund priorities or goals of this fund. Like, this reeks and smells of criminality to me. And, I would hope that the government, as much as they're trying to protect themselves from this and the embarrassment of this, that they will see that if they are not, the Canadian public think they're complicit in this by the fact that they are stonewalling the release of documents. If they're not, if they actually are not complicit, then turn over those documents unredacted and try and restore some faith from the Canadian public into this government. And that's going to be tough to do.
Time for a brief question. The member for Saskatoon West, was it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, just a quick question to my colleague. He had a great speech. Just thinking about all of the scandals that have plagued this Liberal government over the years, I think of the We Charity, I think of the recent other Randy fiasco, all these things that have happened. I wonder if the member could just take a minute to recount some of the ways that we cannot trust this Liberal government to do anything. Thank you.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Cardston, Warner has just a little over a minute to respond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my friend from Saskatoon for the question. I think one of the things that There are so many scandals that come to mind, Madam Speaker, that I am remiss. I may forget a couple if I start trying to recite them all. But I think the overall, what I tell constituents when they ask me, like, you know, why hasn't this? How can this government last so long? You know, it's time to get rid of them. They have shown nothing but contempt for us as taxpayers, and I tell them that one of the experiences that I found most troubling when I arrived in Ottawa was the attitude of entitlement and arrogance that I found in government. And I found that to be troubling, and my constituents feel exactly the same way. Scandal after scandal after scandal shows the absolute and utter disregard for the Canadian public. And it should be, we should have a government that is you know, for the people. This government has turned out to be a government of the people, and there is a significant difference. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Reprise de débat.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Charlesbourg.